Okay, think about this. What if a book, written like over 250 years ago, actually holds the key to understanding, well, everything? Why your coffee costs what it does, the value of your skills, even how global trade works. Could ideas from way back then really shed light on our digital economy today? Welcome to a deep dive. We're digging into a stack of source material all about one of the most influential books ever written on economics and society, Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations. Yeah, we've gathered resources that really try to unpack this huge text, and look at why it still matters. Our mission today, using these sources, is basically to pull out the core ideas. What makes this book so important, and maybe more crucially, why is it still so relevant to your life right now?
Exactly. And by the time we're done here, the aim, really, based on this material, is for you to get a much clearer handle on concepts you bump into all the time. Things like the invisible hand, the free market, division of labor. You'll hopefully start seeing how these 18th century ideas are, still shaping modern economics, influencing your money, your career, even how you see the world. This understanding, well, it should help you make better sense of economic news, maybe make more informed decisions. Our sources do stress that, yeah, it's complex, but getting the essence can really clarify your view of the economy, almost like seeing it all mapped out.
That clarity sounds good. That's exactly what we're aiming for. Okay, so let's get into it. Where did this revolutionary book even come from? What was going on back then?
Right. You really have to picture the scene. The Wealth of Nations. It hit the shelves in 1776. I mean, just pause on that year.
1776. American Revolution.
Precisely. You've got the American colonies declaring independence, shaking up the old powers. And at the same time, back in Britain, the very first sparks of the Industrial Revolution are starting to glow. Things are changing fast. Manufacturing work itself, it's all transforming. The old feudal system is kind of crumbling, and trade between nations is growing, but it's still, very tightly controlled.
So everything's in flux. Politically, economically. And the main economic idea back then, the one Smith was pushing back against, that was mercantilism.
That's the one, mercantilism. The core idea was pretty simple, but Smith thought it was fundamentally wrong. Basically, a nation's wealth was just how much gold and silver it had stashed away.
Just piling up treasure.
Yeah. And that meant governments were constantly meddling in the economy. They pushed exports, blocked imports with taxes and limits, all to get a favorable balance of trade. Sell more than you buy, bring that gold in. They protect their own industries, give out monopolies, even push for colonies just to get resources and places to sell stuff.
It sounds like a game where everyone's just trying to grab the biggest slice of a fixed pie, the pie being gold.
That's a good way to put it, a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
And Smith just completely disagreed. What the sources show is his, well, revolutionary idea. True wealth isn't a pile of metal. It's the productive capacity of the people. It's the ability of a country, of its people, to actually produce the goods and services people need and want, focusing on making stuff, creating wealth, not just hoarding it. That was radical. It changed everything.
Wow, yeah, that completely flips the perspective. From static wealth to dynamic wealth, centered on what people can do. Okay, so that's the big shift. What about the specific ideas in the book, the ones that really made waves? Our sources stress they're not just economic, but philosophical, political too.
Absolutely. They're all tangled together. And a few key concepts really jump out from our sources as the core of Smith's argument, the ideas that really changed the game.
First one sounds like it's the bedrock, the division of labor. And the sources always mention his famous example.
Oh yeah, the pin factory. It's classic Smith. He uses it right near the start of the book to make his point super clear. He talks about this little factory making pins. Instead of one person trying to do every single step, draw the wire, straighten it, cut it, sharpen the point, make the head, put it on, polish it, package it. Impossible, almost. Yeah. The job gets broken down into maybe 10, 18 distinct, simple tasks. One person only draws the wire, or another only straightens it, and so on.
And the difference in output is just huge.
Astronomical. Smith figured one worker doing everything might make 20 pins a day if they were really good. But in this factory, 10 specialized workers. They could churn out tens of thousands of pins same day.
Tens of thousands versus 20. That's not just better, it's a whole different league. What reasons did Smith give? Why does specialization cause this explosion in productivity?
Well, our sources pull out three main reasons he identified. First is increased dexterity. Just doing one simple thing over and over, you get incredibly good and fast at it.
Yeah.
Your hands just know what to do.
Muscle memory.
Exactly. Second, you save time. You're not constantly switching tasks, putting down one tool, picking up another, mentally shifting gears. All that stopping and starting adds up. Specialization cuts it out.
Makes sense.
And third, and this is maybe the most forward-thinking bit, specialization encourages innovation, the invention of machines. When someone's focused totally on one tiny step, they're much more likely to think, hey, there's got to be a better way, and maybe invent a tool or a simple machine to speed just that part up.
That third point is really clever. Specialization actually breeds invention. And you see that everywhere today, right?
Yeah.
Huge factories, global supply chains, even like software teams. Everyone has their specific role. It's just division of labor scaled way, way up.
Totally. Modern manufacturing is basically the pin factory writ large. Smith saw this as the absolute engine of productivity growth, the thing that really generates wealth. It's the starting block.
Okay, so division of labor cranks up production. But then how do all these specialized people, all doing their own thing, actually coordinate? How does the baker know how much bread society needs, or the brewer how much beer, if there's no central planner telling them? Which I guess brings us to the big one, the invisible hand.
Ah, yes, the invisible hand.
Yeah.
Probably is the most famous metaphor, but also maybe the most misunderstood. It's really important to get the context, which the sources help with. The basic idea is this. When individuals are free to pursue their own self-interest, like trying to make a profit in a functioning market, they often end up unintentionally helping society as a whole. It's like they're led by an invisible hand to do good for everyone, even though that wasn't their goal.
So the baker isn't baking bread out of the goodness of their heart.
Nope. They're doing it to earn money. As Smith put it, and our sources highlight this quote, "It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest."
Mm-hmm.
You appealed to their self-interest, not their kindness. To make money, they have to offer something you actually want to buy. And because there are other bakers, butchers, brewers competing with them, they have to offer decent quality at a fair price. Otherwise, you'll go elsewhere.
Right. Competition keeps them honest, in a way. And this whole system, all these individual decisions driven by self-interest and competition, somehow adds up to producing the stuff society needs, roughly in the right amounts, distributed pretty efficiently, almost like magic.
That's the invisible part of the metaphor. It was a direct shot at mercantilism, which said the state had to plan everything. Smith said, no, let individuals make their own choices in a free system, and you'll likely get a better outcome for society than if the government tries to micromanage it all. What's really interesting, though, digging into the sources, is that Smith didn't think this hand worked in a vacuum. He'd already written The Theory of Moral Sentiments, exploring empathy and justice. So, arguably, the invisible hand works best within a society that has, a moral compass and a solid justice system. It's not just pure greed is good.
That context is crucial and often gets lost. So this invisible hand needs the right conditions, the right environment to work its magic. It's not just total chaos, which leads us to the free market and what Smith
Yeah.
called the system of natural liberty.
Precisely. The invisible hand needs, like the rules of the road. Our sources lay out the key pillars Smith saw for this system. First, absolutely vital, protection of private property rights. People need to know that what they work for, what they create or save, is actually theirs and won't just be taken away.
Makes sense. Why bother producing if someone else just grabs it?
Exactly. Second pillar, freedom of contract and the rule of law. People and businesses need to be able to make agreements voluntarily and critically. There needs to be a fair, predictable legal system to enforce those agreements if needed. It builds trust.
Yep.
And third, competition. Markets have got to be open. New players should be able to enter. Old ones can leave. Competition is what keeps prices reasonable and quality up. It prevents monopolies from just charging whatever they want.
So property rights, reliable laws and contracts, and open competition. That's the framework. But that doesn't mean no government role at all, does it? What did Smith think the states should do?
Good point. No, it's definitely not anarchy. Smith saw a limited but absolutely essential role for the government.
Yeah.
It wasn't pure hands-off. He laid out some key duties, which our sources summarize neatly. First, national defense, protecting the country from attack.
Okay, basic security.
Second, an exact administration of justice. That means enforcing laws, protecting property, making sure contracts are honored, basically maintaining that legal framework we just talked about.
The rule of law part.
Right. And third, providing certain public works and institutions. Things that are really important for society and commerce, but probably wouldn't be profitable for any individual or small group to build and maintain.
You mean like roads, bridges, ports, infrastructure stuff?
Exactly that. Things that help trade and communication flow. He also mentioned things like basic public education, arguing that an educated population was good for everyone, good for business too. Yeah. So the government provides the security, the legal backbone, the essential shared infrastructure. and then lets the market, driven by individuals and competition, do its thing to create wealth.
It's a pretty comprehensive vision. Now, the book itself, The Wealth of Nations, it's famously enormous, right? Not exactly a weekend read. Our sources give a sense of how it's put together, usually in 5 books. Can you walk us through the structure quickly? How did Smith lay it all out?
Yeah, it is a beast, hundreds of pages, but it's very systematic. The 5 books kind of build on each other logically. So, book 1 is the foundation, the microeconomics really. Starts with division of labor, then gets into value, price, and how income gets split: wages for workers, profit for owners, rent for landowners. Book 2 dives into capital. This is crucial. Smith talks about saving and investing, accumulating capital as the real engine of growth. This is where he makes that distinction between productive labor, which creates something lasting, and unproductive labor, like services used up immediately.
Okay, capital accumulation drives growth.
Yep. Then Book 3 takes a historical detour. Smith looks at how different European nations developed economically, analyzing how past policies, especially around agriculture in cities, either helped or hindered wealth creation. He's applying his theories to history. Book 4 is the big attack on mercantilism. He just takes it apart piece by piece, argues against protectionism, tariffs, trade restrictions, makes the powerful case for free trade, arguing nations benefit by specializing in what they do best, and trading, that's his idea of absolute advantage. The free trade argument.
Right. And finally, Book V is all about the role of government, like we discussed. What are its essential jobs? How should public spend be paid for? And what makes for fair and efficient taxes? His famous maxims of taxation are in there.
Wow. So he really covers the ground, from the individual worker right up to international trade and government finance. It's incredibly ambitious. Given all that, and how long ago it was written, is it genuinely still relevant? Is it worth grappling with today, even through summaries or deep dives like this?
Based on everything we've looked at, the answer seems to be a resounding, unequivocal USS. Still massively influential.
Why, though? What can a 250-year-old book tell us about, I don't know, AI, crypto, the gig economy? Well, several big reasons come through in the sources. First, reading it or engaging with it, it's kind of like understanding the source code for modern capitalism. So many debates we have now about trade, taxes, the government's role, regulation, they all trace back to ideas Smith laid out. Knowing the original helps you understand the current arguments. Second, you get the original meaning and context of these core ideas. Like we said with The Invisible Hand, meeting that moral framework superficial takes often miss that. Understanding Smith's full argument gives you a more nuanced picture, the philosophical roots, not just the mechanics. Third, and this is really important, it helps you develop a critical perspective. Smith built this powerful model, but obviously he couldn't see the future. Our sources point out that modern economies face challenges he didn't fully address: big ones, like major market failures, think pollution, where the cost isn't paid by the polluter naturally, or extreme inequality, or the crazy complexity of modern finance.
Things he couldn't have imagined.
Exactly. So understanding his original vision is key to seeing where the model works well, but also where its limits or potential downsides might be. It lets you critique capitalism in a more informed way. And finally, honestly, there's just a lot of timeless wisdom in there. Beyond pure economics, Smith makes really insightful observations about human nature, why we do what we do, how societies function, the value of freedom. That stuff doesn't really get old.
So it's way more than just an economics text. It's philosophy, social commentary. Engaging with it helps us grasp the foundations of the system we live in, its strengths, the conditions it assumes, and maybe where we need new ideas.
That sums it up pretty well. It gives you the bedrock, the context to evaluate the economic world we're all navigating.
Okay, this deep dive into Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations, using our source material, has been genuinely fascinating. To wrap it up for everyone listening, what are the absolute must-remember takeaways?
I'd say that huge shift in thinking wealth isn't gold, it's productive power, really kicked off by the division of labor. Then there's the invisible hand, that powerful, sometimes tricky idea that self-interest in a free market can lead to good outcomes for everyone if you have the right framework: property rights, rule of law, competition. And remembering the government's key but limited job in providing that framework: defense, justice, essential public goods.
And how does this connect back to you listening right now? Why bother with these ideas from 1776?
Well, because getting these foundational concepts gives you this incredibly useful lens for looking at the economy around you every single day. When you see prices go up or down, hear politicians arguing about trade or taxes, think about your own job. You're seeing Smith's principles in action, really. Understanding the rules of the game he described can genuinely help you make sense of forces that often feel really complex and out of your control.
Yeah, our source material really emphasizes that engaging with this book, even indirectly like this, is like peeling back the layers to see the foundations of our modern world. That drive of self interest, the amazing power of specialization, how markets can sort of organize themselves if they have the right structure, it's all still happening. I mean, everything from the crazy amount of choice you have in the supermarket to how global finance works, it's all part of that dance Smith described. So maybe the final thought is knowing a bit more about the steps of that invisible hand dance and the stage it needs to perform on. What does that mean for how you move through the economy, how you see the news, how you plan your own future? Definitely something to think about.